here we are. This is Sex Love Psychedelics, and I'm your host, Dr. Kat. Bringing you psychosexual conversations that will leave you intellectually turned on and hungry for more.
You know, there's so much talked about, and I think the one thing when I tell people that I work with Kambo, they're like, "Oh, is that the toad where you get super psychedelic and you get shot off into another stratosphere?" And I'm like, not quite. No, a little bit different. A little more.
You get shot somewhere.
You get shot. Something gets shot. So if we start with explaining what Kambo is, so everybody can follow along with us, how would you start with that?
Ginny, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Well, Kambo comes from the secretion of a frog that lives in the Amazon. It's called a giant monkey tree frog, or Philomedusa bicolor, which is its Latin scientific name. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of myths around Kambo, as there is with everything. And so what we try to do is take away some of what we call USB, which is unnecessary spiritual bullshit.
I like that, USB.
So that's basically what we try to do, is to look at it from an objective reality rather than a subjective reality, mm-hmm. Which is quite helpful. And so how this came about, of course, is the tribes. And this is also legend. Mm-hmm. So you can take it with a grain of salt, because each tribe has its own similar legend. But the one that's probably the most familiar and most heard of is the one from the Katakina, or I guess it's the Kashinawa, who had a shaman named Kampoon, and his people were quite not necessarily sick, but they were lethargic and lazy and having bad luck, and and hunting wasn't going well. And
like most of Americans. No kidding.
Probably anxiety and depression. They call it. But they were, he did not quite know how to help them. He tried many things. And so one night he went into the forest, took ayahuasca, and ayahuasca showed him this frog and actually how to administer it. And he came back, gave it to his people, and they all got better, his whole tribe. And so then the legend is that when he died, he actually went into the spirit of the frog and became part of the spirit of the frog. Now that's the legend. Mm-hmm. Around it. And again, almost all the tribes have a similar legend, and so they all claim some ownership. Although the tribe that we work with, which is the Matsis, they say that nobody can actually own Kambo, which makes a lot of sense around it. But they have tried, even legally in some parts of Brazil. So
when you're talking about the tribes, you're referring to South America. You just mentioned Brazil. Where do some of these tribes locate?
Yeah, the ones that you're going to hear about the most, because this is where the Kambo frogs come from, is going to be Brazil and Peru in the northern mm-hmm. region, along the waterways. There are Kambo frogs in other places like Ecuador, Colombia, the French Guianas, but mm. We talk about it mostly in Peru and Brazil, because that's where it came out of, basically.
And so we work mainly with the Matsis, who are in Peru.
Definitely. And there they would call it sapo. And in Brazil, they call it, there's always a little argument about, is it Kambo or Kambo? And in either way is appropriate, but in Brazil, because of they have a Brazilian Portuguese, they say it Kambo. Mm-hmm. That's where we sort of get that Kambo.
Yeah.
But
not like a combo number 5 that you get from In-N-Out Burger. This is different type of combo. Yeah.
But for those who have had a lot of phonics in school, a lot of them call it Kambo. So either way is appropriate. But how it is received, it's not taken by mouth, the secretion. Uh-huh. It goes through the lymphatic system. So there are little gates, what we call gates, that are actually burned into the top layer, the first layer of skin. It's really relatively painless. And then we reconstitute, because when we get the Kambo, it is dried. They take it and when they take it off of the frog, they put it on a stick and dry it. And then that gets sent to us, and we reconstitute it with water. And then we make little balls of Kambo that's put on those little gates. And then all of the secretion goes in through the lymphatic system.
I call those boogers.
Boogers.
Like,
yeah.
we put little
Kambo
boogers.
Kambo boogers.
How many boogers do you want today?
I show them to my clients. Look, here's your boogers.
And then in about, I don't know, maybe 60 seconds to 5 minutes, you'll start feeling the effects of it. And what are the effects? Well, because secretion is full of peptides, you're going to feel the effects of how those peptides work on the body. There's neuropeptides and biopeptides. So you will start feeling a little bit of flushing because there's a vasodilation. And that when the veins dilate, that causes the blood to rush through quicker, raises the blood pressure. The heart has to pump harder to get all the blood through. And so you'll start feeling some flushing from that vasodilation in the face, some heat. You'll feel your heart sort of pounding in your chest or sometimes in your ear or neck. And the blood pressure is rising. And then it sort of hits a peak and then it starts to drop. And many things can happen during those times, but again, it's all based on science. In this respect, you might get some a little bit of unpleasant sensations in your stomach because one of the peptides causes smooth muscle contractions. And then you feel this little ball start to rise that you purge out.
Purge out in one direction or another, huh?
Yes, that's the upward purge. The South Pole purge is a little different. It's pretty, it can be quite, what's the word? Not necessarily.
Projectile.
I was going to say projectile or violent.
Violent.
So and then you feel better after with those purging. The purging helps. You're getting toxins because of the biopeptides. It's pulling toxins out of the body also and detoxing it, and you feel better as you purge.
Yeah.
This whole thing takes, and then eventually you feel better, and the Kambo comes off. We wipe it off, and then in about really about a week or two, you start feeling a lot better, back to baseline.
In a day or two, you said.
No, in about 2 minutes, actually, you start a little more baseline, back to a little bit more normal, and you want to rest, and so. That's about a 20 to 40 minute process, the whole thing. And then you're done.
I always say, like, I get my deepest sleep immediately after the experience. I'm like, night, night. And I just roll over and fall asleep for I don't know, an hour or two.
Well, that was fun. Thanks for tuning in, lovers. And if you want to experience more ecstasy and sexual liberation, head over to sexlovepsychedelics.com and learn about how you can join me for any one of my online or live events. And while you're there, grab my free guide on sex and psychedelics. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Please contact your healthcare provider and local law before pursuing any of the products or psychedelics discussed. And one final note here. I make this show specifically for you. If you're loving the show, then be sure to leave me a review in iTunes or Spotify to let me know. Happy to be here and happy to serve. I'll see you next time on Sex Love Psychedelics.